I'm Isadora. There is a sound that only exists in the upper echelons of corporate power. It's not the ring of a closing bell, or the buzz of a trading floor. It's the sound of absolute silence just before a signature is placed on a page that will change everything. It's the collective holding of breath by a dozen lawyers, 100 analysts, and one very tired CEO. At 8:47 p.m. on October 17th, in the 42nd floor conference room of the law firm Clayton & Voss, that silence was absolute. The papers for the merger of Finch Pharmaceuticals and the biotech giant, Viridia Corp., a deal valued at $11.3 billion, were laid out on the polished mahogany. My pen, a simple Mont Blanc my father gave me when I made VP, was in my hand. The final flourish of a 30-year career. The creation of a global healthcare titan. My legacy in ink. I set the pen down on the table beside the signature block. And I resigned. The story you've heard is that I had a sudden health crisis. A family emergency. A catastrophic failure of nerve. The truth is far simpler and far more damning. I didn't walk away from a deal. I walked away from a lie. And in doing so, I triggered the most expensive act of corporate integrity in the history of the sector. This is not a story about losing. This is the story of the Golden Resignation. Finch Pharmaceuticals was my inheritance and my life's work. My father founded it on two principles. People first, profit follows, and the science is either clean or it isn't. We were a mid-size, family-run firm known for quality, for ethical trials, for a portfolio of reliable, life-saving drugs. No blockbusters, but no scandals. When Dad passed, the board, hungry for growth, pushed me into the CEO role. I was 49. I became a woman possessed. I grew the company tenfold. We went public. We acquired smaller, innovative labs. We were the darling of the ethical investment funds. And our crown jewel was Luminaria, a revolutionary gene therapy for a rare pediatric cancer. It was in phase 3 trials. It was our heart, our soul, our future. Viridia's courtship began 2 years ago. They were the opposite of us. A sprawling, ruthless, wildly profitable conglomerate. Their CEO, Marcus Thorne, was a Wall Street idol. A master of leverage and shareholder value. He wanted Luminaria. He wanted our reputation. He wanted to consume us. I resisted for a year. But the pressure was immense. The market wanted consolidation. Our shareholders saw the premium. My own board, their eyes glazed with billion-dollar signs, became a chorus of one. Sell, Isadora. Sell for the future. The future they saw was a number on a screen. The future I saw was Luminaria in the hands of a company known for aggressive patent enforcement, for price gouging, for cutting corners in post-market surveillance. I saw our clean science being fed into a profit maximization machine. The turning point was a private dinner with Marcus, 3 months before the deal signing. Over a ruthlessly expensive Bordeaux, he leaned in, his charm a sharp instrument. Isadora, you're a brilliant operator. But you're sentimental. This therapy of yours, it's a gem. But you're thinking clinic. Think ecosystem. We don't just sell Luminaria. We own the entire treatment continuum. The diagnostics, the companion therapies, the lifetime patient management. We make it the standard of care, and we price it as a one-time curative miracle. $1 million per dose. The markets will weep with joy. I felt a chill. Our commitment was to make it accessible. And we will, he laughed. To every insurer and government health service we can squeeze. Accessibility is a pricing tier, Isadora, not a moral stance. Let us handle the commercial reality. You've done the beautiful work. Now let us build the beautiful business around it. That night, I knew the merger was a burial. They would inter my father's principles and build a casino on the grave. The due diligence process was a vampire's feast. Viridia's teams consumed our data. I requested reciprocal access to their safety protocols for similar therapies. It was delayed, then filtered, then provided in heavily redacted reports. A nagging professional dread set in. 6 weeks before signing, a man came to see me. He asked for a meeting through an encrypted channel, using the name Prometheus. He was a senior data analyst from Viridia's pharmacovigilance department. He was gaunt, with the exhausted eyes of a man who hadn't slept well in years. In my office, with the door locked, he placed a plain USB drive on my desk. The Ether trials, he said, his voice a dry rustle. Ether was Viridia's own flagship gene therapy for a metabolic disorder. $1 billion product. The public data shows a 94% efficacy, with manageable side effects. This, he tapped the drive, shows the suppressed data. The early onset neurodegenerative events. The committee reports that were altered. The patients who were paid off, silenced with non-disclosure agreements buried in their settlement contracts. My blood turned to ice. I loaded the files. It was all there. Statistical manipulations. Omitted adverse events. Internal emails with the subject line managing the Ether narrative. One from Marcus Thorne himself read. The long-term tail risk is unacceptable for the balance sheet. Contain it to the post-approval phase. By then, the causal link will be impossible to prove. Our duty is to the shareholders who paid for the science. This wasn't just corner cutting. This was a calculated, systemic fraud. A therapy on the market, in thousands of patients, with a known, catastrophic risk that had been deliberately hidden. Why? I asked him. My daughter has Ether syndrome, he said, his composure breaking. She's in the trial. She's declining. Not the disease. The therapy. They told us it was a novel progression. This, he pointed at the screen, at the truth he'd smuggled out, is what they knew. I can't sue them. The NDA would ruin me and leave her with nothing. But you can stop them from doing it again. He left as quietly as he came. I sat in the dark, the ghostly light of the monitor illuminating the evidence of monstrous negligence. Viridia wasn't just a commercial machine. It was a poison well. And I was about to hand them Luminaria, and the names of 10,000 trusting families to pour into it. I had the power to blow the whistle, to go public, to tank the deal, to launch 1,000 lawsuits. But I had also seen the fine print in our own merger agreement. A material adverse clause tied to executive misconduct. If I, as CEO, acted in a way that deliberately sabotaged the deal before close, Viridia could sue Finch for damages and walk away with a breakup fee that would cripple us. My shareholders, the teachers' pensions, the small investors, would be annihilated. I could not burn the village to save it. For 4 weeks, I carried the weight of that USB drive like a tumor. I performed the CEO. I gave reassuring interviews. I soothed my anxious board. I met with Marcus, smiling while seeing the ghost of his emails in his eyes. The clock ticked down. The solution, when it came, was not an act of rebellion, but one of supreme, strategic sacrifice. It came from the most mundane of documents, my own employment contract. There was a clause standard for most CEOs, a golden parachute. A lavish severance if I was terminated without cause. But I had negotiated a mirror clause, one my lawyer called a gentleman's exit. It allowed for a voluntary resignation ahead of a change of control, triggering a similar, though slightly reduced, payout and critically, a full release from all non-compete and non-disparagement agreements. The company would pay me to go away quietly. If I resigned after the deal was signed, I'd be a Viridia employee, subject to their draconian rules. If I resigned before the signing, I would trigger a contractual earthquake. My plan crystallized with terrifying clarity. I would not blow the whistle. I would vanish, and in vanishing, create a vacuum of power so profound, so suspicious, that the deal would collapse under the weight of its own unanswered questions. The day of the signing arrived. I went through the motions. The breakfast briefings. The final board approval. The photographer's session. At 7 p.m., we moved to the conference room at Clayton and Voss for the ceremonial signing. The air was thick with champagne anticipation. I excused myself to make a final call to my family. In a silent, empty partner's office down the hall, I opened my laptop. I had 2 emails prepared. Email 1. To the Finch Pharmaceuticals Board of Directors and the General Counsel. Subject. Resignation. Effective immediately. It was 3 lines. I thanked them, stated my resignation was for personal reasons, and invoked the gentleman's exit clause. Email 2. To Marcus Thorne, CC to the lead lawyers on both sides. Subject. Regarding today's proceedings. It was 2 lines. Marcus, due to unforeseen personal circumstances, I am unable to proceed today. I have resigned my position. Isadora. I set a 60-second delay on the sending. I walked back to the conference room, took my seat, picked up my father's pen. I listened to that perfect, pregnant silence. I watched Marcus Thorne's triumphant, smug face. On my phone hidden in my lap, I watched the counter tick down, 3-1. Sent. At that exact moment, my personal phone buzzed in my blazer pocket. A prearranged signal from my assistant. I pulled it out, feigned shock, and stood up. I apologize. I have to take this. A critical family matter. Please, excuse me for just a moment. I walked out of that room, down the hall, into the elevator, and out of the building. I did not run. I walked with the steady, deliberate pace of a woman who has just jumped from a skyscraper and discovered, mid-air, that she can fly. By the time they realized I wasn't coming back, the emails had hit. The silence in the conference room shattered into chaos. Without the CEO, the signatory, the architect of the deal, who were they signing with? What personal circumstances were so dire? Was there a hidden problem with Finch? With Luminaria? The lawyers descended into a panic of liability and recourse. The deal, that delicate billion-dollar house of cards, trembled and fell before midnight. The fallout was volcanic. The press went insane. Billion-dollar deal implodes as CEO vanishes. Finch Pharma in turmoil after mystery resignation. Viridia's stock dipped on the uncertainty. Finch's board was apoplectic. They threatened to sue me, but my contract was ironclad. They had to pay my exit package. 3 years' salary, full vesting of all equity. A sum that glittered like the poison apple it was. But the true cost was greater. The scrutiny I had hoped for descended. Financial journalists smelling blood began digging. Why did she really leave? The story of the anonymous Viridia analyst, Prometheus, and the suppressed ether data did not come from me. It came from a series of cryptic tip-offs to investigative reporters. I never confirmed a thing. I didn't have to. Within 6 months, the truth about ether began to surface. Class action lawsuits multiplied. Regulatory investigations were launched. Viridia's stock didn't dip, it plummeted. Marcus Thorne was out by the end of the year. Finch Pharmaceuticals, humbled and shaken, did not sell. The board, terrified of what else might be lurking, installed a cautious caretaker CEO. Luminaria's trials continued independently. It received approval 2 years later, priced responsibly, with a transparent safety protocol. My father's company survived, chastened, but its soul was intact. As for me, I took my golden severance and disappeared. I moved to a small coastal town where no one reads financial news. I bought a little bookstore. I learned to sail. The carriage clock you hear? It's the only remnant of that old life. It reminds me that time is the one currency you can never get back, so you must spend it on things that matter. I did not save the world. I made a calculation. I traded my career, my reputation as a reliable corporate soldier. For leverage, I used the mechanisms of greed, the severance package, the market's fear of uncertainty, as my weapon. I didn't shout the truth from the rooftops. I created a silence so loud it made everyone lean in to listen. And in that listening, they heard the whispers I had planted. Sometimes, the most powerful statement is not a roar of defiance, but a quiet exit at precisely the right moment. It is the ultimate strategic retreat that wins the war you never wanted to fight. They call it the Golden Resignation. I call it the day I bought back my soul, and the future of 10,000 patients. For the price of $1 billion deal. Thanks for listening. If you want to hear more story like this, please like the video and subscribe the channel. Hit the bell icon to get notified.